So you want to know about the risks of sexual activities. We can talk about that. The way I like to begin is kids always ask me, when's the best age to start doing any of this stuff? To start kissing, to start having sex, to start dating. And that's not really for me to answer. That's just something that's wonderful for you to talk about with your family, because every family is different and the hopes and dreams for each kid is different. But what I can tell you is that we know that the human brain is not fully developed until your mid-20s. Some studies say age 26, some say 30. So that is a long time before the brain's fully developed. And this is tricky too. The last part of the brain to be fully developed is the one that controls impulses, which means understanding the consequences of the decisions that you make. So this is an important detail. So as humans grow into adults, so many of us make some of the most important decisions of our lives about relationships, marriages, jobs, works, houses, children, all before our brains are fully developed. And I'm not saying don't make those decisions. I'm saying be aware that as you grow, you're going to change and you're going to have more clarity and awareness in your mind and more understanding of the consequences of the decisions you've made as you enter into your 20s and 30s. So that might influence the decisions you want to make as a teenager and whether or not they're going to be the best, most healthy decisions you want to make for yourself. When we talk about sexuality, it's really important to talk about consent. And you've probably heard this word on the news or in media. Consent is a really important part of sexuality because this is what keeps it healthy, keeps it safe. When you participate in some kind of sexual activity with someone, you need to say, yes, I want to do this. And so does that person. Don't ever force someone to do something they don't want to do. And don't ever let someone force you to do something you don't want to do. And if that should happen to you, that is a crime. That is a sexual abuse. And if someone forces you to have intercourse, that is called rape. That is when someone has sex with you against your will. And you are saying no and you do not want it. And these are crimes. These are terrible crimes that create a lot of pain and trauma for the recipient. And I hope that we're raising up a generation that has this awareness and has more respect for people's bodies. This is an important thing to think about. So as you grow into relationships, technology starts to get brought into this situation. You're gonna be exposed to people that are sexting, which is when you send pictures of your body parts or like your penis or your vagina or your breast to somebody. You do Snapchats, however you do it. This is sending images of your sexual body to other people. I know a lot of kids and a lot of adults think this is not a big deal, but just remember that you're exposing your body to another person who then has that photo. And once something is online or uploaded or in someone's phone, you have relinquished control over where that image goes. So that image could show up somewhere you don't want it to be. That person could show that picture to someone you don't want to see it. And that's important to realize that when you engage in sexual activity, you are exposing your body in these new ways. And it's as literal as exposing your naked body to someone in the same room, but exposing your naked body through technology is something you cannot take back. And you really, really need to think about that before you send images of yourself out into the world, especially because there are a lot of sexual predators online and in person. In some of the chat rooms or the chats or the conversations or the videos that you might like and the communities online you might like, not everybody in those spaces is who they say they are. And it's really hard to prove that you're in a room full of teenagers or you're in a chat room full of kids that are your friends. Sexual predators groom you. They talk to you like a friend. They build trust with you because they want to have sex with you or get pictures of you naked or get you away from your parents so that they can exploit you in these ways. And it's really important to discern that and to not give out personal information online, even if you think this is a close friend, this is someone that you know. You can never be sure that's who's on the other side of that conversation. And it's really, really important to protect yourself, even in an online world where it feels like there's a lot of anonymity, but you are still just as at risk as if you were at the playground and there's a sexual predator talking to you there. And in the same sense, in real time, there are adults out in the world that do prey on children, which means they do want to try and build a relationship with you and get you to do sexual things with them or with other kids or to take pictures of you. And that is called a sexual predator. And this is a crime. This is a terrible crime. And we want to protect kids from having those kinds of experiences. So it's good to know and have that awareness and talk to your parents always about adults that want you to keep secrets from them or like give you a lot of treats and like to bring you off by yourself. And if an adult ever touches you in a sexual way, touches your privates, touches your breasts, makes you feel really uncomfortable or wants to take pictures of you in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, listen to your gut. Your body knows before your mind a lot of the time. If you feel uncomfortable and unsafe with someone, or you feel like they're trying to get you to do something you don't want to do, please tell your parents. Tell them right away. Always include your parents in these conversations. Say they are going to protect you, and they want to protect you, and they want what's best for you. And if an adult ever asks you to keep a secret from your parents, that is a really bad sign. That is a cue that this could be a dangerous relationship. So please tell your parents right away. These are important things to know as you move into the world and start learning more about how sexuality has a dark side. Another part of this dark side is pornography, and I'm sure you've encountered it or you will. Pornography is when people do sexual things, sexual acts, have sex on film, which means a video, or on camera, like there's photos, and you can look at them. It's really easy to find this stuff. And looking at pornography is really tricky because when you look at it, the same parts of your brain activate as if you were having sex. And a lot of people will masturbate while they look at it because it is arousing, because it's telling your body that this is sexual and it's interesting to you. So if you combine looking at an image with an orgasm that you're giving yourself, you're releasing dopamine and oxytocin, which is telling you this made you happy and you feel attached to it, which is rewiring your brain to experience sexuality by looking at images instead of like touching another person in the room with you. And a lot of people are coming forward nowadays saying that they can no longer become aroused with their partners, with their girlfriends, with their wives, with their husbands, because their brains have been reshaped by this continuous pattern of having an orgasm, releasing dopamine, looking at a pornographic image. So it comes with a lot of risk to look at that. And you're supporting an industry that exploits people for a living, because we now know that a lot of people participating in the porn industry are not there by choice. And there are a lot of really sad stories associated with that industry. So these are things that are important to know before you get kind of looped into those cycles. Another risky part of sexuality is something called prostitution. And prostitution is when someone is paid to perform a sex act on someone else. So either to have sex with them or have oral sex with them or anal sex, any of those things. But that person's being paid to do it. And this is considered part of the risky sexual behaviors because you can get diseases when you have sex with people, especially people you don't know well and people whose history you don't know. And sexually transmitted diseases, or STDs, are also known as STIs, sexually transmitted infections. And a lot of these you have for life. They're not curable. They have some treatments that make them less terrible, but they're not curable. And you've probably heard some of these names like herpes, gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis. A lot of these STDs, they're transmitted through sexual fluids like semen, like vaginal lubrication, like saliva, like blood. And when you have sex with someone who has one, you can contract it, and then you will always have it. And some of these STDs, they're painful. They create a lot of physical problems. You could get warts on your genitals. You could pee blood. You could have really painful sex. You could get all kinds of like breakouts and discharge that's painful. But some of them can be passed from mother to baby when a mother gives birth to a baby. So a baby can just be born with them. So that's a huge risk, and that affects another person. Also, they can be passed to new sexual partners. So STDs are a risky part of sexual activity, and you don't just get them from having sex with a prostitute. People get them all the time just from having sex with someone they know at school. So they can get passed around really easily. And there's one sexually transmitted disease that's pretty well known that you've probably heard of called HIV/AIDS. And this one used to be a death sentence. There are a lot of great drugs now that can extend someone's life and prevent that from turning to AIDS. But when someone has that, their immune system gets really, really compromised, and they can no longer fight off illnesses and disease, and it would eventually kill them. So that, like I said, that used to be a really, really scary death sentence for someone, and now there is a lot more treatment available. It's not the end. But these are things that, if you had a choice, wouldn't you want to avoid them? So sexually transmitted diseases are a risk of having sexual contact with people. So what are some ways you can protect yourself as you enter into this new sexual version of who you are? One thing you could do is really get to know your sexual partners and be really intentional with your relationships and really know the people that you're going to be physical with. That's important. If you don't want an unwanted pregnancy, like you're not trying to have a baby, there are things that you can do to try and prevent that. They are not 100% effective, but they are there for that purpose. And all these things are called contraceptives, contraception. And one of those things is a condom. You've probably heard of that. It's kind of like a rubber balloon you can put on a penis, and it catches semen so that sperm doesn't enter a woman's body. The cool thing about a condom is it also can help prevent the spread of disease too. So that's another way that you can try and not get pregnant and also not get an STD. They are not 100% effective. Condoms can rip and tear and break, and sometimes people don't use them right, but it's there. It's something that can help. Another thing that women use to try and prevent pregnancy is birth control pills. And these pills, they control your ovulation cycle so that you're not releasing eggs, so that you're not going to get pregnant if you have intercourse. Another thing people use is spermicide, which is something you can spray into your vagina, which will kill sperm. Again, this is not 100% effective. Women can also use something called a diaphragm, which is like a silicone piece that you fold and put into your body, and it goes up against your cervix, and it prevents sperm from swimming up into your uterus. So that's another way to try and prevent pregnancy. None of these things besides a condom prevent disease. They just try to prevent pregnancies. There are natural ways to prevent pregnancy. Some people really believe in tracking your cycle, like your ovulation cycle, and not having sex on days that you're ovulating. And some people, they believe that a man can just pull his penis out and not ejaculate in the woman, and you won't get pregnant. But that one has proved to only be very minimally effective. So just know that right away. That's not always going to work. And a lot of these contraceptive methods cannot protect you 100% from pregnancy. These are some sexual risks associated with having sexual intercourse or participating in sexual activities. But if you want to know more about this would be something to talk to your parents about. Find out what they think are really risky behaviors, or how they think you could protect yourself from a predator or someone that might be grooming you for sexual activity. You could ask your parents, what do you think a safe sexual experience could be like for me?